Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
You may have heard this term at one point in your life, love language. We all communicate in a different way when it comes to relationships. And a lot of times that is communication of things that we want. Sometimes that communication isn't so effective because we haven't quite figured out our own love language or what our partner's love language is. And we're going to look at that today. There are many. I'm not even sure how many there are, to be quite honest with you, but he does. He works with couples all the time to fortify their marriages. And he's one of those people that wants to see your relationship last a very long time. And he's back with us. Paul Zohav joins us on the program. Welcome, Paul. How you doing?
Very well, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I see couples who've kind of forgotten who they are for each other. And one of the things that have showed up in the work we do is understanding that their love language is not necessarily the same as your love language. I'll refer to that. We have Gary Chapman, who wrote a book called The Five Love Languages. And everyone, I give them a copy. And their job is to read aloud, I emphasize aloud, together, because that's the way we learn. And we'll distinguish that people feel loved in slightly different ways. We can't assume that the way we love them has actually been received. That's called communication. There are gifts, quality time, acts of service, words of affirmation, and physical touch. We all have all five love languages, but the order in which they arrive may be very different from one to the other. In fact, the assignment will be to read the first 9 chapters aloud together, taking turns of the 5 love languages, and then you'll take a quiz at 5lovelanguages.com, and you'll receive a report of your love languages from most to least. And you may find out that you may be loving them in your best, most reliable love language because you feel loved when they do that. You may likely find out that you're missing the boat. For example, my spouse's love language is acts of service. She experiences joy when I love her and take care of her. She experiences joy and satisfaction when she takes care of other people. She's a teacher, and she's been a principal, and she likes nothing better than the opportunity to serve. Acts of service. And I know that because I took the quiz, among other things. We read the book together. And my primary love language is words of affirmation. I like to be appreciated for what I do. She experiences love when I take care of her. So when I took care of the refinance of our home, she was thrilled to have no piece of it more than to show up when the notary public comes. When she wants to change the sheets, which is more frequently than I personally would choose to do, I'll say, yes, Anne, and I show up. And there's 2 reasons for this, because if I don't show up, she'll do the sheets by herself, and I've lost an opportunity to express love to her, and she's lost the opportunity to feel love from me. There's a double whammy here. So we tend to make choices that leave us more us at the end of the day, for example. But for some people, gifts are significant. Very rarely, but you may be surprised to find how unimportant gifts are. Some people, you give them a gift, they feel, oh, thank you, I feel so loved and connected. And you notice I was too cheap to buy it for myself, thank you. And receiving gifts has a high impact on their love language. If they buy me a gift, it's a little bit disappointing because typically I go right to Amazon. I don't rely on them to get what I want the way I want it. However, when I tell Rita, my spouse, that I'd like a gift, she will immediately go and find it because she's acts of service. So when I don't tell her what I want and I go off to Amazon and make a purchase online, there's again the double whammy. I don't get to feel loved by her, and she doesn't get to express love to me. And then this physical touch, which some people confuse with sex, which is one small dialect of the physical touch world. The most important thing I say is to remember to hug each other. Being held has enormous amounts of benefits. It teaches patience. It actually is medically necessity because a physical hug registers in our physical health and well-being.
I want to interject, if I may, here. Two
Please go ahead.
things. Two things. First off, thank you for sharing all of these because they don't get talked about anymore. I remember like 10, 15 years ago, love language was kind of a thing. If you have a question or comment, you can reach us instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com. And the hugging thing, I just had this conversation with a few friends last week that it has been said, maybe scientifically proven, that we need at least 8 hugs a day to basically survive. That's just getting by. That's not even talking about, on the plus side. I think it's like 12 to really be in a good frame of mind. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, a few things. One, researchers have found that the average length of a hug between two people is 3 seconds. 3 seconds.
Hmm.
And yet, when a hug lasts at least 20 seconds, the body registers it. It helps us relax and feel safe and calm. So, since we often don't work together, when you come home, the practice becomes start with a 20-second or longer hug. It grounds the energy. It reconnects no matter what day we had or didn't have. We're transitioning from life out there to home in here. So hug is an important part of that. It's a very important part of raising children because their self-esteem and self-worth often has to do with the hugs we give them. There's an enormous benefit from the world of hugs. And when you're in an argument, stop, take a hug, start again. It could be as easy as
Interesting. You never thought of it that way. A lot of times in an argument, it's heated. You're going back and forth. Just hug break, hug. Let's get back into it. I think that's a great idea.
The extra complication is that when couples come to me, and more than a few times with infidelity and cheating, part of the source can be found in the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman because some people, they like to play quality time. I'm one of those people. But some people like to be appreciated for what they do. Some people express love by taking care of things. That's acts of service. And some people like to cuddle and be held. And it's often happened in the couples that I've seen where are experiencing some degree of infidelity and discontent is that they're not speaking each other's love languages. They're kind of boats missing in the night. And so once you've read the first 9 chapters of the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman and taken the quiz, you may realize that you've been thinking you love each other, but you're not, effectively. And infidelity will sometimes show up in this neighborhood because they want to go out and hang out quality time with you. But you're so busy paying attention to your business and your enterprise that you decline. And so they become vulnerable to finding words of affirmation or quality time with someone else. And then infidelity starts to put down roots. So it's a really huge conversation. And once you learn that they like hugs, in fact, everybody likes hugs, you do it. You come home, hug 20 seconds, arrive home mentally and emotionally as well as physically, and life begins to dance. Five Love by Gary Chapman. Please get a copy as soon as you can. Not an audio copy, unless you want to listen to it on the road going to and from place. But you would be best read it aloud together, taking turns, because that's the way we learn and have impact on the way we are together. The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman.
So we have Josh checking in, instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com. He is in Ocala, Florida. He says, I feel my girlfriend doesn't express appreciation for the things that I do for her.
Very common.
I told her last week, and she pretty much got frustrated and didn't want to talk about it. What should I do next?
Well, there's a whole language of appreciation, which is essential to being a human being. And where I would begin is to restore thank you and you're welcome. Seems to me that growing up, we heard a lot more you're welcomes and thank yous. And today, we're more likely to hear no prob, no big deal, Um, and yet when we say you're welcome, there's a context. There is a contact made, which is pleasurable.
Yeah.
When you say no prob, there's no life.
I just want to this. I have banished those two words, and I've always had said them in the past. When you take those two words, no problem, they're both negatives. Why do you want to? And I get what we're trying to say. Hey, it was no skin off my back. It's okay. Happy to help you out. Whatever. We mean it in a positive way, but those two words, even psychologically, and a lot of us are programmed to we're running our subconscious programs in the background. No and problem are both negative words.
Without your welcome, they don't even know whether you noticed what they did. They don't even know whether you've heard them or they've heard you.
Mm.
Your welcome closes the loop. It's the invisible handshake that allows us to feel connected, which is inherently pleasurable. And about 3/4 into the first session that couples come to me, you see them smile and giggle. Because thank you, you're welcome is loving. Appreciate, to be appreciated, to feel loved and connected. So the very first place is, I thank you for changing the oil. You're welcome. And all of a sudden, life shows up.
Yeah.
And when you say no problem, there's no life. Some
Totally.
people don't even say anything at all. Maybe a shrug or a head nod. It's a loss of opportunity. And when I was a hospital chaplain, I would always acknowledge the people who are the janitorial staff, though they don't call it that. They're there. You can't spend 5 minutes in a hospital without seeing a gurney or a cart or a mop. And yet, for some reason, the people who work for us and protect us with the work they do kind of exist below the threshold of awareness. So one of the things I invite people to do is random acts of appreciation. See something, say something. And our world becomes a warmer place. We start with, thank you, you're welcome, for something they do, or I appreciate you for being kind, generous, fun, considerate, caring. These are words we attach to a class of actions that we call it loving, caring, funny, fun, great dad, great mom, person I love above all other people. When we use these words, life shows up.
Hmm.
It's also a leadership skill. I don't know, we have another minute because
Sure.
leading a meeting in your business, someone comes up with a thought that's not on the agenda. So what do? How do you maintain control of the agenda of your business meeting? Well, you say, well, hang on a second. I love your thought. I even love the way you're thinking. And how about this? We'll put your thought at the end of the agenda. And if we don't get to it today, you and I will sit down. I'll hear everything you have to say. Now, in just a few sentences, you've appreciated them, you've acknowledged them, you let them know when they'll be heard and how they'll handle their intuition, their great idea. And your meeting proceeds. And everybody feels appreciated and welcome. It increases job morale. It increases job retention. When you appreciate the people around you, they like to work with you. Oh, Steve, he's a great guy. I love being around him. Why? Because he always notices how I'm doing and says so. Appreciation, one of the skills we will focus on the second session after we've begun with thank you, you're welcomes, and I appreciate you for beings in the first session. And all of a sudden, couples come to me on empty gas tanks. And when they start appreciating each other, they start to fill their gas tanks. And they have mileage yet before them. Thank you. You're welcome. And thank you for doing this broadcast, Steve. It's an opportunity for me to bring thank you, you're welcome back into the world.
It's interesting, Paul, that a lot of this goes back to principles that I've talked about a while ago, long time ago, expressing gratitude. Expressing gratitude can be a game changer in your life. I want to say it's also been scientifically proven that it's changed lives. And when we say, I appreciate you, you're expressing gratitude. And the same thing with thank you, it's positivity. I always look for a way to say thank you. no matter what, as long as it's authentic, not like you're just pulling it up out of nowhere. Just sent an email a little while ago. First two words, thank you. It's just even in the subject line, it's a positive thing.
When a server comes up to me in a restaurant, I will thank them for every act of service. Thank you for the napkins. Thank you for the refill. Thank you
Sure.
for this. Because they're not automatons, they're people. They choose to serve us. And we get a chance to thank them for every act of appreciation we can. And they are glad to be servers of us, and we are gratitude for being served.
Sure.
See something, say something. And when you notice love languages, you get to speak them. If you know your partner likes to be appreciated, you do it. When you know they like to have quality time, you make a date. It's really not very complicated. You can find more on the blogs on my website, marriageandcommunication.com. I'd be happy to serve you. I would be honored to serve you because people come to me with less life. At the end of the session, they have more life. It's as easy as that. And appreciation and love language is an essential part of the work we do together. Next week, in this call, we'll talk about personality types, specifically the Myers-Briggs personality types, and how that influences the quality of our lives together. So I'm Paul Zohav, marriageandcommunication.com. You can call me if you want or reach me through the website, and sessions are available by Zoom. I have coached couples from Austria, Ohio, and Florida.
Wow.
And sometimes couples, they're deployed. We have a lot of military here in Tucson, and they find them going off for 6 months to Africa. So we have three-way Zoom sessions. There's no reason why we can't serve one another and learn how to serve each other, even by Zoom. So I would make time for you to have a video conference. And sometimes couples are closer being apart than they are being at home together. It's really quite remarkable.
We have a few minutes left. We looked at appreciation as one of the 5 love languages, kind of put a microscope on that one. Can we pick another one and kind of dig a little bit deeper? You pick.
Oh, the love language of, quality time.
Okay.
It is often the case that couples have young children. And what got them together as a couple was they hung out and played and talked to each other. But now they have 2 or 3 children under the age of 6 or 10, and the time they have to devote to each other's quality time can be rather minimal. In fact, sometimes non-existent. And the very thing that fed their marriage has been put on the back burner. And so one of the things we set up is what I call mystery date. What is a mystery date? Every week, one of you is accountable for choosing the mystery date of the week. And you take turns, week in, week out. And so you make sure to prioritize ourselves as a couple, even as we're raising young children. And it's easy, and it could be anything from reading a book to aloud to each other. Read the 5 love languages aloud to each other. That's quality time. You can read Harry Potter. You can read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. In fact, one of the things I ask couples to do with their children is after dinner, have a read aloud time as a family. Children get to read to us to get our attention. We get to read to them a book that they like, and they learn and pronunciate. They learn to enunciate. There's so many gifts when you read aloud to one another. And so you start programming quality time in, because when you run out of quality time, your love tank goes on empty. And you wonder where your marriage went. And sometimes 20 years later, your kids are grown and they're flown, and you're on your own and you're an empty nester, let's say about age 50. And then sometimes you look over at the person in the bed next to you and it's like, who the heck is that? And because that you've neglected to feed your marriage, even as it is raising children and building careers.
But
is my number 1 love language.
You bring up a really great point, because I think a lot of couples in those situations think that, well, we're raising the kids together, so we're doing it together. There's a togetherness there, but that's not essentially the full togetherness that we're looking for. And I wanted to share, you mentioned about coming up with dates. I'm dating somebody and she got a book. It's literally $20 on Amazon, and it's full of date ideas. And they're all broken down into categories where weather, season, cost, whether you need a babysitter or not, it's all there. And it's kind of cool where it's like, all right, pick a page. All right, here's a page that fits us. Let's say it's winter, so you can't do too much stuff outdoors. And I can't remember if it's a scratch off or you open, the door on the page. But like great ideas. And it takes the pressure off of both. And once you commit, when he scratches off or open the mystery door here to the date, we have to do it. There's no turning back. We have to do it.
And you can just take turns. One week you do it, one week I do it. You may
Sure.
find out though, you may find out that you like opera. You can go to Metropolitan Opera online and download and view an opera. And you may find that you love it. And because they like opera, you may find out that you love opera.
Yep.
You can do things that you've never done before, that you've never tried before, or that you'd like to share with your partner. And and it's their turn, go dancing. You may find out, dancing is especially good because it's quality time, physical touch,
Mm.
and it's exercise. You
Yep.
really can't lose when you go dance. Go
You're
dance.
you're 100% right. All of these thing I discovered with the person I'm talking about is I like going to comedy shows. We would watch them on TV, stand up, pick a couple of different comedians. And we've gone to a few shows now already. We have another one this Saturday night with a pretty famous comic who comedy's big now. I don't know what happened. But we did determine that we thought this one guy would be great. And we said, he's not that great in person. But you learn, like you just said, you learn those things and you learn it together. And I would have never known unless she brought it up. Hey, why don't we watch a comedy special? Sure. All right. What do I got to lose? What's the downside?
Find out you like it, or you find out you don't like it. Either way, you
Right.
win.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're doing it together.
My brief sentence is that we are only designed to see 180 degrees in front of us. Many of us make the mistake that if we don't see it, it doesn't exist. But if you're with a person, they get to see what's in front of them, and together we have a 360-degree life, where we gravitate biologically to what's in front of us. So your significant other, currently or to be, literally sees far more about the world than you do, and you do the same thing for them, and together we have a rich life together.
Yeah. Final question here. You counsel a lot of couples. What do you think? And we said, communication is key here, but what do you think is the most overlooked love language by far?
Well, if it's young parents and children, it's going to be quality time. If one of you is an entrepreneur, paying attention to your business, you might want to pay attention to quality time with your spouse, or appreciate them. And even though you may not have been hugged as a child, you get to hug them because that's their love language. I call it driving for me versus driving for we. When I'm in a car by myself, I can stop within 2 car lengths of the car in front of me every time. If I hit the brake a little hard, it's fun. However, when my spouse is in the car and I do that, she gets dramatically unhappy. Dramatically unhappy. So since I'm choosing our life, I drive our way, not her way. My way, excuse me. I'll brake sooner. I'll wait longer to make a turn. And we'll take more right turn routes to the left than the left turns because she feels safer with right turns than left turns. So I choose a restaurant that she likes. She chooses a restaurant I like. And together we have quality time and a life that dances. Driving for me versus driving for we. Are we making a choice for my way or making choices for our way? I recommend our way.
Well said. Paul, great talking with you. I'm very happy we talked about the love languages and when it's some depth there because it's overlooked. And people, many times couples don't realize why there's a miscommunication. It's because we're not speaking. It's like we're speaking a foreign language, even though we're speaking the same language,
Literally.
right?
Expecting to speak your love language and not knowing what it is a mistake.
Right.
Go to 16 personalities, not the other one. Go to 5lovelanguages.com. Take the quiz and read the book together, aloud, taking turns, and you'll discover there's a new person in front of you, and you'll know how to do it. Dance with the person you're with.
You might even discover the new person is you. You might find some things that you never realized that you needed until you get to that book. Once again, Paul, what's your website?
So marriageandcommunication.com. Next time, bring your questions, and we will answer them online or send them an email, and we'll deal with it. I'd be honored, because that's what I do.
Good stuff.
And I'll be grateful for your opportunity to serve you.
Yeah.
Marriageandcommunication.com.
Next time we'll get together, we'll do phone calls and then, of course, emails. Paul, thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it.
It's been an honor and a pleasure. This is what I get up to do every single day.
Your passion shows. All right, we'll catch up next time. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.